Back in 2020, Anthony Edwards was the first overall pick by the Minnesota Timberwolves in the NBA draft. But now that he's in his third year, things aren't looking so great for him. Even his teammate, Rudy Gobert, has had some harsh words for him. Still, not everything Gobert's saying to the media is negative. He recently praised Joel Embiid following a big game between their teams. We'll be covering that and more in today's video. First up, Gobert on Edwards' game. This season, the Minnesota Timberwolves are clearly expecting a lot from rookie Anthony Edwards. They used their first overall pick on him back in the 2020 NBA draft, and they want their investment to be paid back in full. But things haven't been smooth for the young star shooting guard, and his teammates have had a lot to say about him this season. One of those teammates is center Rudy Gobert. Though Gobert only joined the Timberwolves this year, he's got years of league experience compared to the young Edwards. Gobert has played enough with the team to recognize that Edwards has the potential to be an amazing defender, but realizing that potential isn't going to be easy, especially given that he's noticed that Edwards lacks focus. Speaking to Tim McMahon of ESPN, Gobert said that if Edwards puts his mind to it, he could very well be an all-defensive player. Though he's been critical of Edwards' off-the-ball defensive game, he knows that the 21-year-old can be quite competitive. When he's defending on ball, he's one of the best, even if he's matched up against a very skilled player. But that's if he's got his head and heart in the game. The problem is that's not always the case. To be a truly great defensive player, you need to be consistent and do it at every point in the game. Considering these words are from one of the best defensive big men in the league with 3 Defensive of the Year titles to his name, we shouldn't take them lightly. Next, Gobert praises Joel Embiid. There's no arguing against the fact that Joel Embiid is one of the greatest players in the NBA right now, and Rudy Gobert has no problem with acknowledging it. Gobert and the Timberwolves recently went up against Embiid when they faced the Philadelphia 76ers late in November. Embiid, as always, made a significant impact in the game, putting 32 points on the board and 9 rebounds and 6 assists. But that effort wasn't enough to take the 76ers to victory, as the Timberwolves dominated throughout and snuck off with a 112-109 win. Still, Embiid's efforts did not go unnoticed. Gobert was clearly impressed by the start, 76ers center 6 of 15 shooting, but it wasn't enough to psych him out. After the game was done, the Frenchman expressed his respect for Embiid. He said that the rival center was a very unique player with the power and finesse to successfully attack the rim. Every mistake that his opponents make could spell doom for them when Embiid's on the offensive. But then, when his opponents are on top of things, that still doesn't mean he won't make his way to the net. Now for Gobert's performance against the 76ers. Gobert likely felt comfortable praising Embiid at the moment because he held the high ground. Though he might have been somewhat silent on the way to victory, his contributions can't be understated. He managed 13 rebounds and 1 assist in the game, and that went a long way to ensuring the Timberwolves had their 3rd consecutive win. As a result, they were sitting at the 10th spot in the Western Conference with a record of 8-8. When Gobert joined the team, he made it clear that he was going to accept nothing less than a championship win this season. Though they started off as favorites to go all the way, the beginning of the season proved to be rough, and they were soon considered one of the worst teams in the league. There seemed to be a lack of chemistry that hampered the team's game, and they even lost 3 matchups in a row. But things are looking up now, and there's certainly still hope that they can make it to the finals. Following their game against the 76ers, the Timberwolves went up against the Miami Heat. They managed to take down the Heat and extend their winning streak. So even if they're currently in 10th place in the Western Conference, they seem to have enough momentum to claw their way up to the top. Coming up, Towns talks Edwards' mediocre start. Back in October, when the season was still in its early stages, Anthony Edwards was one of the very few players that were expected to make a big splash. But his first 4 games ruined that reputation as he turned in mediocre performances. Teammate Karl Anthony Towns, or KAT, seemed to be particularly critical of that and what might be causing it. After a particularly bad loss against the San Antonio Spurs, KAT was asked about Edwards' fluctuating performance, since he considers himself to be a mentor to Edwards, having been with the Timberwolves since 2015. KAT was quite blunt about the young player's performance and also his eating habits. He said that he could stand to do a better job of teaching Edwards how to take care of his body, referring to diet and exercise. For KAT, that's his responsibility. Edwards is notorious for talking to the media about his love for fried fast food, but KAT doesn't really like hearing it from him. He considers it a problem since they're supposed to be high-level athletes that need to maintain their physical abilities. Though Edwards has said that he's committed to eating healthier, his self-proclaimed mentor doesn't think the young shooting guard isn't actually making enough of an effort yet. Moving on, the result of Towns' public statement following KAT's discussion of Edwards' poor performances and bad eating habits. The internet did what it normally does, which is take something somewhat serious and make it a joke. The discussion went so viral that KAT felt like he needed to address it on social media to do some damage control. In a tweet, he said that the group of players on the Timberwolves is special, and he's not concerned about what people on the outside are saying. Though Edwards hasn't addressed Towns' criticism directly in the media, he has acknowledged that his love of fast food needs to be controlled a little. According to Dane Moore, Edwards said he wasn't eating any fried foods during the week in the offseason, and he wasn't going to have any at all during the season. It seems like Towns' message must have reached him, and that he's now much more concerned about his diet and health. Let's talk about Towns' injury. Most recently, the Timberwolves went up against the Washington Wizards with a 10-10 record. This match proved to be an upset for a couple of reasons. First, the Timberwolves added another loss onto their sheet this season, suffering a 142-127 defeat. Second, one of their most important players, KAT, had to be helped off the court in the third quarter due to an apparent non-contact injury. KAT had apparently strained his calf muscle while running back up the court after Kyle Kuzma successfully made a jumper. He quickly crumpled to the floor mid-run, screaming in pain. As he walked to the locker room, it was seen that he wasn't putting pressure on the leg. Shortly after that, it was announced that he wouldn't be coming back onto the court for the remainder of the game. His absence definitely made it a lot harder for the Timberwolves to fight back from 17 points down. KAT is scheduled to undergo an MRI to determine the extent of the injury. Head coach Chris Finch said that he was really concerned, but Adrian Wojnarowski said that there was early optimism that the injury wasn't going to keep him off the court for too long. Towns has previously undergone a number of procedures in the offseason to help with different ailments, including stem cell treatment and platelet-rich plasma injections in a number of joints. So far, he's played through his injuries successfully this year. The hope is that he'd be able to continue that and make it through to the end of the season. Lastly, trading Russell. There is definitely potential for the Timberwolves to move up in the league, but there's only a few things they can really do to better their roster and chemistry. One move that fans and pundits alike have been suggesting could liven things up is trading out D'Angelo Russell. If the team does consider a trade, there would be a number of teams that would be interested in having him on board. At the top of that list would likely be the Washington Wizards. They've been having a decent season so far and have a shot at making the playoffs as they're currently 8th in the Eastern Conference. They might have a pretty good point guard in Monty Morris, but if they really want to make the playoffs, they need to consider replacing him with someone that's known to be a good ball handler. That someone could be D'Angelo Russell. Well, that's a wrap for this video. So do you think the Timberwolves will be able to recover from their poor start this season? Let us know in the comments below. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.